Hello, patriots, praying citizens, and truth seekers. Today is Saturday, November 16th, 2019. The rats are trapped in Q's Mission 8. You see, while the deep state had the whole nation focused on Russia, the really diabolical actions were running through Ukraine. And now, thanks to the whistleblower, the rats have been trapped because their own playbook was used against them. If you're concerned about government overreach and companies like Google stealing your data, one of the best things you can do to help protect yourself is to sign up for a free 30-day trial of Virtual Shield VPN mobile and desktop app. This will allow you to create a secure connection to another network over the internet. Virtual Shield can be used to shield your browsing activity from prying eyes, whether you're on a public Wi-Fi connection, in a foreign country, or just at home. Click on the link below this video and it will take you to this screen. Then you just click on this red box here that says Start Now for free. Here you decide which plan you want and then download the Virtual Shield free 30-day trial, install it, and click Connected. Once you're connected, you'll have a new IP address. And right now, Virtual Shield is offering a Black Friday month-long special of 40% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. Sign up for your free 30-day trial today by clicking on the link below. I wanted to start with this tweet from Donald Trump on November 10th, and it was provided on Twitter by Enoch. The title says, "When you know they are listening, a phone call is a perfect trap." He tweets, "The call to the Ukrainian president was perfect. Read the transcript. There was nothing said that was in any way wrong. Republicans, don't be led into the fool's trap of saying it was not perfect. But it is not impeachable. No, it is much stronger than that." And then in all caps, "Nothing was done wrong." And I also pulled this tweet from ABO Warrior. "Remember when Q would ask, 'How do you feed a plant?' You water it. In other words, you give the spies the rope on which to hang themselves. Perfect sting op, and they didn't even know it." The next interesting piece is this tweet by Donald Trump this morning, quoting Rush Limbaugh. He said, "My support for Donald Trump has never been greater than it is right now. It is paramountly obvious watching this. These people have to go. You elected Donald Trump to drain the swamp. Well, dismissing people like Yovanovitch is what that looks like. Dismissing people like Kent and Taylor, dismissing everybody involved from the Obama holdover days trying to undermine Trump, getting rid of these people, dismissing them. This is what it looks like. It was never going to be clean," only he misspells it, CLAEN. "They were never going to sit by idly and just let Trump do this." So, a couple of thoughts about the word clean. If you rearrange the letters, it spells Lance. The nice guys tweeted, Trump's tweet today included the misspelling of the word clean with A coming before E. Q post 1559, Viva la resistance. Viva versus vive. This comes on the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of the Yellow Vest protests in France. And here's that post. D-Class, Lisa Page, Viva la resistance. Vive A versus Vive A, A versus E. James Comey or Jim Clapper, JC, why classified by Intelcom at highest level? Define title. Define role with Mueller. Exchange Shelter's very senior member. Signed Q. Then there was this odd tweet. Keith Olbermann tweets odd things about dogs in shelters that when you take them apart piece by piece, you say, this doesn't make sense. And so perhaps this is all tied together. I'll just read it and let you comment. This is from November 14th. Agile Rocco may die today from self-fulfilling prophecy. Arrived at peace with other dogs, but a month, all caps, in the hole, he's starting to react to them, so he goes to death row. Rocco, hashtag 77413, needs rescue/F/A, pledges via at Tom Jumbo Grumbo. and then please retweet, and then an address for the shelter. Again, I don't know, it's just an odd tweet. Maybe someone is going to Gitmo to death row, who knows. Another thing that happened last night that was pretty important considering what's going on is a speech given by Attorney General William Barr at the Federalist Society dinner. He accused congressional Democrats of using every tool to sabotage the Trump administration by setting a dangerous precedent in implying that the government is illegitimate. Now, resistance is the language used to describe insurgency against rule imposed by an occupying military power. It obviously connotes that the government is not legitimate. This is a very dangerous and, indeed, incendiary notation to import into the politics of a democratic republic. They essentially see themselves engaged in a war to cripple by any means necessary a duly elected government. Barr claimed that while Trump's presidency falls outside the norm of previous administrations, he was elected with the public fully aware of this. Another quote, "The fact is that yes, while the president has certainly thrown out the traditional Beltway playbook and punctilio, he was upfront about what he was going to do, and the people decided that he was going to serve as president." Notice the word playbook, you're going to see it in a Q post. On Thursday, President Trump met with AG Barr before departing for a rally in Louisiana. These were some of the reporters' comments. Waiting for M1 departure, Marine One, the helicopter, we're watching Trump in an animated conversation inside the Oval Office with AG Barr and others. Photographers have snapped pics of AG Barr speaking with Donald Trump in Oval Office. White House counsel Pat Cipollone is also in the Oval with Barr and Trump. They have gotten up now. And Trump was supposed to depart the White House at 4:10, but after ending his meeting with Barr and Cipollone, he just sat back down behind the Resolute desk for a new meeting. This meeting is with Stephanie Grisham, Gidley, Mulvaney, and others. Let's look at this Q post from Thursday night. I believe it was right after the rally. Q writes, Australia, Italy, United Kingdom, co-op, DOG. Then in parentheses, Barr, Durham, class 1 through 4. I believe this means they're now cooperating with Barr and Durham. And then human intelligence, signals intelligence, etc. So those are their means of spying. Non-Five Eye official channel, so using unofficial channels, and then in brackets, U.S. senior persons, and then REQ, given sensitive nature of target, presidential nominees. And then POTUS plus Cruz, bold and in brackets, class 1 through 4. So this is the targets, or these two are the targets of the unofficial spying and the information related to that using non-official channels. Who gave the orders? Who signed? Papered per normal national security. Comms to/from foreign and domestic. Face-to-face 1 to 4 persons, 1 to 4 U.S. persons, initiate scope memo. U.S. Ambassador 1 and 2. I know one of those is Samantha Power, not sure who the other one is, but they were used to unmask the names of the people that were being surveilled under a FISA warrant. So U.S. Ambassadors 1 and 2, NSA, unmask request. Then NSA to U.S. Ambassador 1 and 2 to Australia, Italy, United Kingdom. Then in brackets, special order per director. Then bolded in brackets, class 1 through 9, authorized unmask per U.S. ambassador. Then in brackets, all caps, each unmasking requires approval/sign. And then bolded in brackets, all caps, key. CIA domestic assist with rogue FBI to avoid U.S. law. And then bolded in brackets, non_op domestic. Then C_A, human intelligence, domestic placement. 2, the T campaign. 1 to 3 jumps, primary target, that part was bolded in brackets. T, White House, spy_, insertion, national security, C, personal advisors, cabinet. So putting the spies, several of them, within the National Security Advisory Council, his personal advisors, and his cabinet, all initiated by the CIA and signed at the very top. Then C_A, organized under DNI, which would be Clapper. 2010 to 2017, then bolded in brackets, Clapper, bulk. 2017 to 2019, Coates, sleeper/prevent black op release of incriminating documents. So Coates replaced Clapper in the DNI. That's quite a bit of information there as we just kind of consider what Q has told us. I think this is new, at least to me, this new information about how many different places spies were inserted. Then Q lists a post from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of the word trap, a device for taking game or other animals, especially one that holds by springing shut suddenly, something by which one is caught or stopped unawares, a position or situation from which it is difficult or impossible to escape, a football play in which a defensive player is allowed to cross the line of scrimmage and then is blocked from this side while the ball carrier advances through the spot vacated by the defensive player. The act or an instance of trapping the ball in soccer, a defensive maneuver in basketball in which 2 defenders converge quickly on the ball handler to steal the ball or force a bad pass. Well, I think we can take several of those and apply them to the situation. The next Q post takes us to Twitter and a bunch of Q proofs. I've sort of congealed these into a smaller space. The first, let's start at the bottom, is July 8th of 2019. Q post that says surveillance of Sarah Carter and John Solomon has been terminated. Sleep well. And then we see the proof on the 13th of this month that it happened because of the fact that this was going on in Ukraine. We're going to look at that in a minute. And Tom Fitton writes, coup update. This was on the 15th. List of those allegedly targeted for illegal monitoring by ousted Obama holdover ambassador to Ukraine. And you see that he's got these 2 circled at the bottom, John Solomon and Sarah Carter. 3597, do you believe in coincidences? Mathematically impossible. Date public became aware. Date Anons became aware. Reconcile. Do you think we are targeted and attacked by the largest media companies in the world because we're a LARP? Logical thinking. Q. And if you're new, LARP just stands for live action role playing. 3598 links us to a Twitter post that has this information here, which is an old Q post. It says, expand your thinking. Who leaked Vault 7 to WikiLeaks? Who returned fire? Operation name, Fiddler. Snowden. Mission 1, infiltrate. Mission 2, centralize. Mission 3, secure. Mission 4, expose to harm. Date. White House interference. White House directive. And that would be the Obama White House. Mission 5, Russia link. And then in parentheses, 2013 timeline of events. 1/17/14, think, learn. Mission 6, Fiddler, Ghost, Prime. Mission 7, Class. Mission 8, Whistleblower, Traps, Jobs C-3567K. Mission 9, Censorship, Class plus Relay, and then it's signed Q. As I was editing this video, a couple more Q posts popped up, so let's talk about them. The harvest crop has been prepared and soon will be delivered to the public for consumption. A higher loyalty. Remember whose book that is? Oh, yes, James Comey. And then Q has the capital Y bold and in brackets, which signifies the top of the food chain for the cabal. Hunters become the hunted, treason, sedition. How do you remove a liability? 6 o'clock can be dangerous. Family proud? Q. And then the last one, for those who decide to save the taxpayer some money, in other words, they don't allow themselves to remain alive long enough to suffer the consequences, he says there is no escaping God. So just to back up a little bit, because we were talking about the whistleblower, we know the one man has been named. His first name is Eric. He was handpicked by John Brennan. He was a street activist. Then he was recruited into the CIA. Then he ended up at the National Security Council. So there we have one of those spies that Q told us was residing in the White House. He had experience with Ukraine, and he became the go-to guy under the Obama administration. He was handpicked by Brennan to be fast-tracked to the White House and the National Security Council. And we all know that Brennan is one of the most vocal and annoying critics of President Trump. Now we're going to talk about yesterday's hearing with Marie Yovanovitch. I will spare you this boring, ridiculous hearing where she was basically crying about she lost her job and it wasn't fair and President Trump was not being fair to her. She told several lies and she was caught in each one of them. She was fired by the president well before the July 25th phone call that this whole thing centers on. She said she had no evidence that he had done anything regarding bribes or criminal activity. She did say that the president bashed her on a call with President Zelensky of Ukraine. From that phone call on April 21st, beginning with President Zelensky, he says, with regard to the ambassador to the United States from Ukraine, as far as I can recall, her name was Ivanovich. It was great that you were the first one who told me that she was a bad ambassador because I agree with you 100%. Her attitude towards me was far from the best, as she admired the previous president and she was on his side. She would not accept me as a new president well enough. President Trump says, well, she's going to go through some things. I will have Mr. Giuliani give you a call, and I am also going to have Attorney General Barr call, and we will get to the bottom of it. I'm sure you will figure it out. I heard the prosecutor was treated very badly, and he was a very fair prosecutor, so good luck with everything. Your economy is going to get better and better, I predict. You have a lot of assets. It's a great country. I have many Ukrainian friends. They are incredible people. So let's go back to more from her testimony. She said she knew nothing about the issue of corruption between Hunter Biden and Burisma by the previous administration. And then she admitted that she participated in a practice Q&A from the Obama administration related to a conflict of interest because of the Hunter Biden-Burisma deal. She testified she shared the sentiments of other State Department officials that the Biden-Burisma relationship created the appearance of a conflict of interest for Joe Biden. And she also was forced to admit that lethal aid that they had sought in Ukraine was not provided to them by Obama, but it was provided by President Trump. Donald Trump then stirred everything up during the hearing yesterday by tweeting this: everywhere Marie Yovanovitch went turned bad. She started off in Somalia. How did that go? Then fast forward to Ukraine, where the new Ukrainian president spoke unfavorably about her in my second phone call with him. It is a U.S. president's absolute right to appoint ambassadors. Then he adds, they call it serving at the pleasure of the president. The U.S. now has a very strong and powerful foreign policy, much different than preceding administrations. It is called, quite simply, America First. With all of that, however, I have done far more for Ukraine than, And indeed, he has. Now, John Solomon put a list of 15 questions out that he would like to ask Marie Yovanovitch. I pulled out some of these things because they're still hanging in the balance. So the Hussein State Department helped fund a nonprofit organization called the Anti-Corruption Action Center of Ukraine that was also funded by George Soros's main charity, ANTAC. It was identified in a 2014 Soros Foundation strategy document as critical to reshaping Ukraine to Mr. Soros's vision. What role did Yovanovitch play in funding this group, and why did State Department funds flow to it? Did anyone consider the perception of mingling tax dollars with those donated by Soros, a liberal ideologue who spent millions in 2016 trying to elect Hillary Clinton and defeat Donald Trump? During a 2016 meeting, Yovanovitch discussed a list of names of Ukrainian nationals and groups that she did not want to see Ukrainian prosecutors target. And the witness that they had on Wednesday, George Kent, confirmed it. It was part of a larger probe by Ukraine's prosecutor general into whether $4.4 million in U.S. funds to fight corruption had been improperly diverted. In the end, no action was taken against ANTAC. It turns out ANTAC was co-funded by the Obama administration and George Soros, and it was collaborating with the FBI agents investigating then Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort's business activities with pro-Russian figures in Ukraine. He also writes this in an article, John Solomon does. A few months later, Yuri Lutsenko, widely regarded as a hero in the West for spending 2 years in prison after fighting Russian aggression in his country, was named prosecutor general and invited to meet new U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. Lutsenko told me he was stunned when the ambassador gave me a list of people whom we should not prosecute. The list included a founder of the ANTAC group and 2 members of parliament who vocally supported the group's anti-corruption reform agenda, according to a source directly familiar with the meeting. Now, regarding this 2016 meeting where they discussed these people that were not to be prosecuted, witness George Kent confirmed it, and he signed a letter urging Ukrainian prosecutors to back off an investigation of Soros's ANTAC, which is a violation of the Geneva Convention requirement that foreign diplomats avoid becoming involved in the internal affairs of their host country. Yovanovitch gave a speech calling for replacement of Ukraine's top anti-corruption prosecutor. That speech occurred March 5th during the Ukrainian presidential election. Another violation. In spring of 2019, Yovanovitch began monitoring the social media communications of certain journalists targeting Americans with state resources. Was that improper or illegal, perhaps? Jim Jordan also put this out. Nellie Orr testified to Congress that some of Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS's opposition research against the Trump campaign came from a Ukrainian, Sergei Lyshenko. And then in this tweet down here, Lyshenko asks Jim Jordan to prove it. He says, I never met Fusion GPS and Orr. I have no idea how they got information about Manafort. You continue to share this fake news on each hearing on impeachment. Either provide details or stop sharing the lie. And here, Jordan provided the details with the transcript, and he says this is exactly why Republicans asked Adam Schiff to call Nellie Orr to testify, and Schiff refused. He also had a little press conference yesterday afternoon after the public portion was over, and Schiff then went to depose another witness in private. A great question for Adam Schiff. When is he going to release the transcript? So there are 4 transcripts of people who've already been deposed. He says we can't use them under House rules in these proceedings to question the witnesses. You know what else is interesting? The Federalist Society had a gala on Thursday night, and Rod Rosenstein refused to stand when Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the keynote speaker, was introduced. Remember, Rosenstein allegedly offered to wear a wire against Trump and refused to testify under oath about it. And we know that Rosenstein is, shall we say, not clean. I wanted to also give you this kind of interesting exchange between Paul Gosar, who is a dentist and also a representative, and Katie Hill, the disgraced participant in thruples, and she has resigned. So he says, we don't know whether Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, but we do know that Democrats will stop at nothing to impeach President Trump. We don't know if Epstein killed himself, but we do know the Democrats are killing themselves with one hoax after another. Check this out on Tucker Carlson as we splice and dice and play 4D chess with their one-dimensional play. Kofefi lives. You know that stands for, or that is interpreted in Arabic, which Google tried to hide, we stand. So Dr. Gosar is a Republican representative from Arizona. He sent out 23 tweets in a row that made an acrostic that spells Epstein didn't kill himself. It got 15 million views and it was passed around the world. He wanted to reach people who aren't following the fake impeachment inquiry to show how big of a hoax it is. This is what he told Tucker Carlson. He said he also used tweets to spell out Area 51. And here's this little exchange. Katie Hill writes, no, like this actually happened. Real members of Congress tweeting out real conspiracy theories in an acrostic, no less. And Gosar says, you're surprised by me? You single-handedly taught an entire country a new world. Hashtag thruple. And WTH is up with that tattoo. Relax. Now let's talk about this sad story about Roger Stone, who was indicted on 7 counts of process crimes, which could put him in jail for the rest of his life. What happened was the Obama judge did not allow Stone to argue for proof that Russians hacked the DNC server, that their whole case against him hinges on the fact or the lie about the Russians hacking the DNC server. And this was reported in the Mueller report. Stone claimed that if the Russians didn't hack the DNC, his case would be dismissed. But Judge Jackson wouldn't let him. Stone's position was that if the Mueller team and the FBI did not inspect the DNC server, then how can they know that the server was hacked? Remember, the DNC would not give the server to the FBI, but gave it to CrowdStrike, an independent company. So the FBI never had the server, and Stone argues they should be allowed to see the documents that would prove the Russian hack. But the Mueller team refused. And why is that? Because it was physically impossible for so much data that was contained in this Vault 7 release to be contained or to be transmitted wirelessly. And it had to have been put on a disk of some sort or several disks in order to handle that much information. So they really had nothing. This was a process crime, meaning it's all related to something that's not even, he would never have been convicted of had this thing not started from the beginning. The charges are obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and making false statements to Congress. This gal's in some trouble. This is Rashida Tlaib, representative from Michigan. A House Ethics Committee has been asked to investigate her for possibly converting campaign funds to personal use. If those funds were expended for other than campaign or political purposes, then she may have violated House rules. She asked the campaign to give her several loans. Here's another hypocrite we need to look at. This is 83-year-old Democrat Representative Alcee Hastings from Florida, who at a Rules Committee meeting in October said that the president had committed high crimes and misdemeanors, yet he himself was impeached and removed from the federal bench in 1989 for taking bribes. And now they're looking into him because he had a relationship with a staffer and he possibly received improper gifts, including forbearance from that employee. You might remember this gal. She left Alabama to join ISIS in Syria, married a terrorist, gave birth to a child, and now she wants to come back into the U.S. claiming that she's a citizen. However, she's not. She's the daughter of a Yemeni diplomat. She was born in the U.S. while he was here, so she's not actually a citizen, and a judge ruled that the U.S. has no obligation to let her back in. Win-1 for the good guys. This news was out this week. NBC's Emmy Award-winning medical correspondent Bruce Hensel was arrested for attempting to get photos from a 9-year-old girl. He is a friend of Adam Schiff, just like Ed Buck. It seems like Adam Schiff needs some new friends. And this came out. This was such a bizarre story. I wanted to give you guys some background on it, so I'm going to read a letter from a mother. This Colorado Springs daycare center was hiding 26 children in the basement of another building on the property. So police were doing a welfare check because someone said it looked like there were too many kids in this one daycare center. They found no children on the inside, so they contacted the owner, whose home is on the same property, and she refused to cooperate with them. When the officers walked down the stairs, they located 2 adults and 26 children, all under the age of 3, inside a finished basement behind a wall. Officers immediately began working with the Colorado DHS to release the children back to their parents. So here's a letter from a mom. She says, "I'm a parent of one of the children who was found to be hidden in the basement of Play Mountain Place yesterday afternoon. I was one of the first 2 parents who were on the scene and would never have believed the state of things if I had not seen it with my own eyes. Prior to yesterday, my experience had always been dropping off and picking up my child in a clean, pristine, and loving environment. Yesterday, I picked my child up from a small, dingy room in a basement that I had never before seen, where 26 children were crowded together amidst empty juice box containers, graham cracker crumbs, and various children's blankets and loveys. The room smelled of unchanged diapers, and several of the kids were crying. Everything was the exact antithesis of everything I had been led to believe my child was experiencing during the days they spent at Play Mountain. My immediate hope was that this was a one-time thing, but in the corner of the basement there were cubbies with children's names on them holding diapers, including my own child's, leading me to believe this is a place they had regularly spent time. This was nothing at all like the level of care I had been led to believe my child was receiving, and the amount of deceit that took place to convince parents otherwise is completely mind-blowing. To say I am shocked, overwhelmed, and feeling utterly betrayed is an understatement, as prior to yesterday I had nothing but rave reviews for this place and the caregivers." Well, I just hope that the police get down to the bottom of this thing, and when I hear the word basement and children, I immediately think of tunnels, and the one out in California, I can't think of the name of it, back in the 80s where there were tunnels. It was the McMurray, I think the McMurray family. Anyway, I just hope that none of that happened in this case, but I will let you know when the rest of the information comes out. I want to finish off with a couple of good things. This is from President Trump. The Dow hit 2,800 yesterday, first time ever, highest ever. He says, "Gee, Pelosi and," gosh, he spells SCHITT, "have a good idea. Let's impeach the president. If something like that ever happened, it would lead to the biggest fall in market history. It's called a depression, not a recession. So much for 401ks and jobs." And then there was this. He just flipped another appeals court. White House attorney Stephen Menashe was confirmed today to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York. The court now has 7 conservatives to 6 miscreants. And just something funny. I love this little cartoon. It's got the Grim Reaper. He's holding his sickle and he says, "Hillary, your time is up." And then this guy from South Park says, "And the Grim Reaper is dead from an apparent suicide." Gotta laugh at this stuff, or I think sometimes we'll cry. But anyway, it looks really good that this whistleblower mission has been accomplished, and now we're moving to the next stage, which is, I believe Hughes said, it's more censorship. So we'll see where we go from there, but we know that the president has the playbook. He's used it against the deep state, and their days are short. I want to read this from Esther, chapter 7, verses 9 through 10. This is the hanging of Haman, who tried to trick the king into hanging Mordecai the Jew. And one of the chamberlains said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, stands in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman and his 10 sons on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Esther 7, verses 9 through 10. Father, we thank you that you always have the last word. And this wickedness is not going to go unchecked. It's not going to be gotten away with. You will have the last word. What a man sows, he will reap. We thank you for that. Father, we thank you for our president, for setting him up with good people around him in spite of the spies that were there. We thank you for the day that's coming, that everything will be exposed and all of these people will go to prison or worse. Father, we thank you for justice and judgment. In Jesus' name. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.